You're listening to Christian Audio's production of The Insanity of God, a true story of faith resurrected by Nik Ripkens. This book is read by Geoffrey. This audio recording was produced in 2015 by Christian Audio, which owns the copyright. No portion of this recording may be reproduced for any reason without prior written consent from Christian Audio. This edition, issued by contractual arrangement with B&H Publishing Group, originally published in English as The Insanity of God, a true story of faith resurrected. Copyright 2013 by Nik Ripkens. All rights reserved. Please visit christianaudio.com, facebook.com/christianaudio, or twitter.com/christianaudio to offer your impressions of this work and to explore additional titles. Prologue. Ready or not? First, the confession. My real name is not Nik Ripkens. My reason for writing under a pseudonym will become apparent soon enough. Rest assured, my story and the people who appear in it are very real. Many of these people are, to this day, in real danger. It is their identities that I want to protect. For this story, I've changed my name, and I have changed their names too. This is my own true account of a long and personal journey. I share the story not as a great heroic adventure. In fact, much of the time, this pilgrimage has felt to me like an endless, bumbling, stumbling, wandering, feeling my way in the dark ordeal. This is a story with a clear beginning and an uncertain ending. Or maybe it's better to say that this story starts with one beginning and ends with another one. When I first encountered God's grace as a young man, I received it eagerly. My trust in God was innocent and childlike. The story that I was told about God's love and about His gift of salvation took hold of my heart. When I read in the Bible that God loved the world, I understood that I was a part of that world. When I was told about God's gift of salvation, I knew that I wanted that gift. When I heard about God's desire to reach the entire world with His grace, I quickly saw that I had a personal responsibility to fulfill that mission. And when I opened the book of Acts and encountered God's desire to reach the nations, I concluded quite simply that God intended for me to play a part in that. Early in my life, it was so matter-of-fact. This is what God offers His people. This is what God intends for His people. This is what God expects of His people. And His people, obviously, will respond with obedience and trust. I'm not suggesting that I always got it right, because I did not. But still, the way to be obedient and trusting seems so clear, and the need to be obedient was beyond question. I'm not sure if I ever heard it said out loud, but I also picked up on the idea that obedience to God's call would result in a life of safety and security. Obedience, it was implied, would lead to effective ministry and measurable results and even success. The safest place to be, I was told more than once, is right in the center of God's will. And that sounded both true and reassuring. I admit, however, my surprise when many years later I found myself living a life that was neither safe nor secure. I was stunned when, despite what I considered to be a life of sacrificial obedience, I could point to very little in my ministry that was effective. There were simply no results to measure, and success was a word that I would never have used to describe what I had done. It might, in fact, be safe to be in the center of God's will, but we would be wise to stop and think about what it means to be safe. I felt that I had lived a life in response to the call of God. Instead of effective ministry, measurable results, and what might pass for success, I felt mostly loss and heartache and failure. What kind of God would allow this to happen? That question drove me to a place very close to despair. I was forced to question much of what I believed, much of what I had been taught. The spiritual struggle was intense. Despair was something that I had never known before. I was familiar with discouragement. In fact, I had been told as a young believer that discouragement would probably surface in my life with Jesus from time to time. But this was something different, something I had never faced before. And I discovered that I had no tool.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?